So for those of you who don't know, Dele Alli, a very talented English footballer. He's only 27 years old. He's been playing professionally since he was like 16. Made his debut at 16 for MK Dons. Started playing for England at 18 when he went to Tottenham, and I think he's got like 37 odd caps. He won PFA Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year twice. He's basically one of the best midfielders of his generation, or he was considered that at the time of him playing at his peak. Since then, unfortunately, his career's gone on a downward spiral, and he's become the butt of a lot of jokes. The media have loved to hate him. They've attacked his lifestyle on multiple occasions. Haven't bothered sort of thinking about the reasons why he might have been declining in his performances, but just been happy to, talk about how he has been declining. And, on the pitch, his stats certainly backed up the fact that he wasn't playing his best football. He drifted from Tottenham to Everton to Turkey, and now he's back at Everton. But he's still only 27 years old. He's still a young man. And I think we should also not ignore the fact that young, successful black men with money often get vilified by the media. Whether people want to admit it or not, I don't care. It's fact. So there's a lot of reasons why he struggled, but not many reasons were known publicly. Because why should there be? They're his problems. And now he's felt ready to speak about them. And I hope that a lot of people in the media, and a lot of us casual fans as well, who too quickly pass judgment on people, these trolls on Twitter will be quick to sort of criticise people and write whatever the fuck they want about people. People on the terraces who will criticise. Just, I think this is a good time to take a step back, take a breath, and realise there's a real person behind the footballer that you see, behind the movie star you see, behind the next door neighbour that you see. It doesn't matter who they are. Let's not start attacking people without knowing their story. It's an obvious thing to say, but we need a reminder of it sometimes. And I think this is an appropriate time to sort of just take a breath and just look at this story as an example in isolation and see how we can do better, all of us. So let's have a little look at Dele Alli's story. So, bearing in mind all of the things we've just said about his successful career and his subsequent sort of downfall, I don't like to call it a downfall, but you know what I mean, the subsequent sort of lull in his career, if you like. He's come out and done this interview today because he's felt like he's needed to, because people have criticised him so heavily, and he's now in a place where he feels strong enough to fight back a little bit, if you like, and sort of give a bit of context to what's been going on rather than just having his name dragged through the mud. So, bear this in mind now, you know all that. But would you reacted the same to Dele Alli if you knew all this? Now, Dele was adopted at a young age, but before his adoption, this is all in the interview, he detailed how at the age of 6, with his living with his alcoholic mum, he was molested by one of his mum's friends in his own house. The house would be often full of people that he didn't know, usually random men, drug taking, drinking, doing whatever they might have been doing. He was molested by one of these people at the age of 6. He said that he went on to start dealing drugs at the age of 8, not through choice or because he was a bad kid, but because adults took advantage of him. He didn't have any role models in his life. He didn't have anyone looking out for him. And people decided that it was a good idea, a good ruse to have a child dealing drugs because they wouldn't get sort of stopped, which is tragic. So that was at 8 years old. At age 11, he talks about how he got dangled off a bridge over some beef. I don't know what that was about, but you can think about how harrowing that would have been for an 11-year-old. And before that, in between that, he was sent to Africa to live with his paternal father by way of punishment, by way of learning some discipline, apparently. And that was a horrible moment for him, or period of his life. 6 months, I think he said he spent there before getting sent back again. But just think about that. Just stop and think about, I think he was 8 years old, an 8-year-old child being sent to a completely different country, not just a different country, but a different culture, completely different way of living with people that he doesn't know, and being sent there at 8 years old. Just think how that would affect you, or would have affected you at that age. To then come back to that lifestyle of drugs and alcohol and mistreatment, to no boundaries, no parental guidance. Just think how a young mind that's still being sculpted, very much still being sculpted, is going to react to that, and how that's going to impact him in the future in everything that he does. And I think that's the key thing here. These incidents weren't just left in the past. These stay with a person, and the trauma is real throughout life. So he started playing at MK Dons when he was age 11, which can only be a positive thing because sport can often sort of be a great release for kids like this. And then at age 12, he was adopted by what he described as a wonderful family. So the start of a bit of a recovery, you'd like to think. And he's got nothing but good things to say about those adoptive parents. And, you know, these are the sort of superheroes that we need in life. Adoptive parents are, you know, selfless in many ways. And I think Dele has got nothing but gratitude for them. So age 12, he was adopted. Age 11, he started at MK Dons. And by the age of 16, he was in the first team at MK Dons, which there's two things about that. It's an amazing achievement for someone so young to be able to progress so quickly to be in the first team of a professional football team, a men's professional football team at the age of 16. But also what really sort of struck me was that, so he was adopted at the age of 12. He's playing first team football at 16. You've got to assume that for a year or so before that, he was hitting pretty high standards with the youth team or the reserve teams. Before that, he hadn't had a childhood. He'd been left to raise himself, basically, with no guidance and no sort of fun in his life. So he really only had 3 or 4 years of childhood, of being a kid, before he was thrust into the professional game at 16. So you think from 16 years of childhood, he had like 3 or 4. And yet people still expect him to behave in the way that a sort of well-rounded child or somebody with a traditional sort of supportive upbringing would behave. Not only has he not had that, he's also started to earn ridiculous amounts of money at 16. Well, not directly at 16, but, you know, started to earn professional money and have the spotlight thrust upon him in all of the newspapers for all the right reasons, you know, for being an excellent, talented player. But it's a lot. It's a lot. So after that, he then went to Tottenham, and his career really, you know, it took off, didn't it? But all of these things that he was carrying with him, they didn't disappear. They were still there. And as he got older and no doubt gained more understanding of what happened and realised how wrong it was, and probably felt some resentment towards it, it's going to affect you. And you can't just tip up for training every morning or tip up for your job in your 9 to 5, just work as though everything's normal when that's going on inside. And I think that's what I'd like to say about life in general. The person that you see struggling at their office desk, the person you see at the shop who's serving you might not have the best sort of attitude that day, or might seem a little bit offish or snappy, or the person who doesn't hold the door open for you when you'd like them to. You're quick to bang, bang, bang. What's right with this person, there? Look, yeah, sometimes people will act maliciously, but a lot of the time people have got real issues and reasons why they're behaving like this, whether it been having a bad day for very local reasons or because of things that have historically been troubling them that they don't even know they're inherently behaving that way because of these issues. Now, I'm not saying we go through life hugging and kissing everybody and forgiving everyone for everything, because I don't do that. I wish I could, but I don't. But just in the back of our minds, let's sometimes stop and think, you know, what's going on with people, and just show a bit of compassion. Why not err on the side of caution and assume that these people are behaving this way because they're having a tough time, rather than assuming that they're bad people and that we need conflict with them. And it's a similar story with Dele. People assumed that his partying and his sort of lifestyle, if that were the case, which he says wasn't nearly as bad as they make out, and his drop in form was all due to laziness. And that's something that he touched on as well with the Pochettino interview in the Spurs documentary, which many of you might have seen on Amazon. It's quite a prominent clip where Mourinho calls him lazy and says he's going to throw his talent away and this, that and the other. And in the interview, he touches on the fact that that's stuck, or Gary Neville touches on the fact that that's stuck throughout the years, and it's a word that really you don't want to be associated with if you're a professional sportsman. He's lazy. And Dele does say that a week later, Mourinho apologised to him for that and said he shouldn't have called him lazy. Dele said that it was a day after a sort of rehab day or something, I think, from an injury. So it wasn't a full intensity session for him. And Mourinho apologised to him, but they didn't choose to put that in the documentary because that doesn't make good TV. But if that was in the documentary, a lot of the stuff that happened afterwards, in terms of the media calling him lazy, thinking he was throwing his talent away because he couldn't be asked, A lot of coaches will subliminally have seen that and thought, oh, he's got an attitude problem. The young black male being called lazy with an attitude problem, again, it's easy. It's easy for people to jump on. And I think if the Amazon documentary would have been rounded and would have showed that, it could have been a different story in terms of how people perceived him. It wasn't going to solve all his problems, but it's just another thing that he had to contend with. So I think there's so many factors to Dele's story that need exploring and need talking about. He's managed now to go to rehab. He said it was 3 weeks ago that he got out. He wasn't locked up, that he finished his rehab program in America. And the language that he's talking, the language he's using is really encouraging. I haven't been through any of the troubles that Dele's been through, and I don't pertain to. I have had to do some counselling myself with my mental health problems, and I know that some of the language he's using is encouraging. He's not blaming other people. He's taking responsibility. He's saying, one of the powerful things I thought he said was that he didn't blame his mother, and he understood the trauma she was going through as a young woman, trying to raise him as an alcoholic. And he doesn't blame her. He sort of empathises with that struggle. And I thought that was really powerful for somebody to have the sort of the mind to show empathy and sympathy towards a person who sculpted his life and led him down a route that he probably wouldn't have chosen for himself, but to still look back and say, you know what, I can see why that happened, and I've got understanding. I think that's massively powerful. He talked a lot about feeling numb throughout his career to his feelings, and that now he looks back and he's like sort of shocked on that. And I can appreciate bouts of depression in my past where when I come out of them, I look and go, whoa, was that real? That was pretty heavy. I can't imagine feeling like that now. And he's showing real roots of real sort of signs of recovery, and it's brilliant. I just hope that he gets given the support and care that he deserves, and I hope that I'm excited to see how the media and the man on the street react to this story, because if I think of a lot of other celebrities that might have come out with this story, it would definitely be plastered all over the newspapers. It'd be the first story on News at 10. It'd be in all the gossip mags. There'd be people on Twitter calling for this person to be knighted for their bravery. I wonder if that'll happen with Dele. Maybe I'm cynical. I don't see it happening. I remember when one of Antor Deck, it was Ant, weren't it, the one with the big head, was drink driving and ended up crashing a car, and a few weeks later, it's all right, he's been through rehab, and he's back on your screens and everyone loves him. He's the nation's sweetheart again. Will that happen with Dele Alli? I don't know. Let's see. And I think it's important just to understand that no matter what trapping someone's got, no matter what lifestyle they're living, no matter what they're projecting to the outside world, it's not the full story. And so if you're not sure whether someone's genuine or not, if you're not sure whether somebody's struggling or not, why don't we just assume that they need compassion? Let's start from a baseline of compassion and work our way up.